Welcome to part 3 of this video series. In this part, we'll be emphasizing on the Terraform scripts and the pipeline and the steps that will be executed to provision infrastructure on AWS and Azure simultaneously. So before I start explaining about the code, I'd like to quickly walk you through our remote state file, which is stored in Azure. So I basically created a container and a blob storage, and I have created this blob, which is terraform.tf state, which is going to be a remote shared state file, which is going to be a single source of truth for our inventory or the infrastructure which will be provisioned after the Terraform script runs successfully. Right now you can see there's nothing. I have no infrastructure provisioned at the moment. Here it is 0, and also for Azure it is 0. I can also quickly show you that I have nothing running over here at the moment. So I'll quickly walk you through this again. Build the Terraform pipeline. As you can see, there's a dependency on the build pipeline here, where we have mentioned trigger as true. So once the build pipeline runs successfully, this pipeline will be automatically triggered. In this stage of provision Azure and AWS infra, I'll be using Ubuntu as the base VM to run the scripts. I'm using I have used an extension which is this one, Terraform CLI, which I have installed as from the marketplace that you find it over here, which has really significantly helped me to manage all these different string connections, service connections. So I can also show you quickly how I've created this service connections for my pipeline, through which I'm able to connect to Azure and AWS. So service connections. So I have created one for AWS over here and one for Azure. So it has my credentials in it and AWS key pair in this Azure AWS service connection. So this really helps in running scripts. Before this also I had to create app registrations and give permissions. So back to our pipeline now. So the flow is very simple, where I am trying to basically I'm running a task which will tell about the Terraform version, and as a first task in the pipeline. Later on, I'll be downloading a pub file that I'm using as I'm going to use SSH key pair to log into my virtual machine. So I'm going to upload my pub file to all the virtual machines that will be created through our Terraform scripts. Once this and this pub file, this public my public key is stored in the library section over here, as you can see, and it is stored as a secure file. So this is really comes in handy with Azure DevOps, that if you want to pass any credential, you can just pass through this feature, which helps you not to to get over this hard coding or any case of leaking sensitive information. So in this case, I'll be creating on my agent, I'll be creating a temp directory in which I'll be downloading my pub file. So over here the public key will be prepared. After this, I'll be running, so Azure's Microsoft hosted agents, they by default come with Terraform installed in it. So over here, I'll be running Terraform init script on my agent, and it will connect. As you can see here in the settings, you get all these nicely easy to fill menu. I'm connecting to my Azure RM as my backend type, and later on I'll be running my Terraform plan to see what is going to be provisioned or deployed on these cloud providers. And finally, when everything is run successfully, I'll be applying with an auto approve, where I'll be passing my public key file path, which is, I'll show you also how this has been all put together in the Terraform script. So in the repository, in the Terraform folder, you can see script for both AWS instances and Azure VMs. So I'm using the AWS provider here. Key pair, which I mentioned earlier, this is my basically public key, which is going to be passed through my secure files from Azure DevOps. I'm creating my VPC here, passing the CIDR block, creating a subnet, and in this subnet I'll be provisioning my EC2 instances. Over here you can see the security group and the security rules. So by default, this is mandatory to open port 22 for SSH, and because we'll be running in the later section Ansible scripts through SSH, so this one is definitely needed. And we're opening port 5000 as we'll be running our .NET application on port 5000. Egress, you can see it's open to the internet. I'll be creating 2 EC2 instances in this thing. As you can see, the count that I'm providing here is 2. This is the AMI, which is the Ubuntu for US, I suppose it's US East region, of an instance size is T2 micro. And we've also created dependencies here that will be waiting on key pair, and after this the EC2 instance will be created. And finally, you are going to publish the output of our public IPs, which will be used in the later part to create the dynamic Ansible inventory. For the Azure Terraform script, you can see I'm making sure that I'm using 4.0, one of the 4.0 versions of Azure RM provider. Creating the resource group here. This one is important one, the backend Azure RM, where I'm mentioning about my remote state file. So I've mentioned the details about my resource group, storage account name, container name, and the key. Creating my virtual network here, the address place or the CIDR block, subnet in which the virtual machines will be provisioned, my network security group, inbound rules in this priority with 500 for port 22 that will be used for SSH, and port 5000 with priority 600, which will be used to for accessing our .NET application. Here I'm associating my NSG, network security group, at a subnet level rather than on per NIC level. Public IPs, here the count is 2, as I'll be again provisioning 2 virtual machines on Azure NICs and Linux virtual machine with admin username as admin user and size as standard P1S. And it's again an Ubuntu virtual machine, and with dependencies, and to have a good flow that we know which resource will be created after what or before what. So that will make sure we have all things in place together. And finally, publishing output all the VM public IPs in the state file. Great. So this is the Terraform part. I'm happy to. So right now, I can just say, okay, maybe I made some changes here, but it's okay. So the build pipeline was run, but then I had cancelled my Terraform pipeline. I'm happy to can just run this pipeline manually and see what the output will be. So let's see. So we're using again Microsoft hosted agent for this. As I mentioned earlier, Terraform comes installed by default in these agents. So you're able to download the public key from a secure file. Terraform version. We're preparing the public key, and then now we're running Terraform init. So we're initializing Terraform on our agent, which was run successfully. And now the main part starts. Terraform plan and then apply. So it's acquiring the state log. So our storage account, our blob file could be found over here. So as you can see, it is in a state called lease, so it is locked. Great, so Terraform plan ran successfully for 15 seconds, and now we're running Terraform apply. You can see it's creating a VPC security group on both AWS, and also you can see some Azure RM simultaneously. So NIC1 was created successfully over here, and okay, we're creating Azure RM. We're creating Linux virtual machines on Azure right now. So we are creating 2 virtual machines, each on Azure and AWS. So Terraform apply was run successfully. As you can see, it took 1 minute 39 seconds to create in total 4 virtual machines, 2 on Azure and 2 on AWS. You can quickly go and check over here. Instance is running, and both, and again for virtual machines over here. Great. So instance 1 and instance 2 still initializing, you can see, and my Linux VM1 and VM2. I can also just check over here from all resources. So we have my Linux VM1 and 2 and NICs, public IPs also created over here. So that's great. So as you can see, we were able to successfully provision infrastructure both on AWS and Azure, and that was great. So I look forward to see you in the next part of the video. Thank you.